At the time of this recording, I had only known Nick for a few weeks. Nick was visiting his friend here in Philly for the first time, and his friend happens to also be friends with Brandon Thrash, my friend and guest from season 1. Brandon brought Nick to my husband's birthday celebrations, and I loved Nick's friendly nature and positive attitude. I was able to check in with Nick over the weekend and get a few status updates regarding some of the things we had talked about in this episode. First off, he changed his Instagram handle after our recording, so make sure to follow him at Nick Dietrich. That's NickYdeech on Instagram. In this episode, we learn about Nick's love of music. He finally took a leap and performed a stripped-down version of Someday by The Strokes at the open mic night he has really enjoyed going to. He was supposed to attend the music festival Bonnaroo, but I knew it was canceled due to Hurricane Ida. When I had asked him about it, he said, "I know, it was a total bummer. I was pulling into Nashville the day before the festival when I got the news. Hurricane Ida had basically flooded the entire campground. The people helping set up the festival were ankle deep in water." When I asked Nick what he was up to work-wise, he said he's still working private cocktail gigs through word of mouth. He's also currently pouring beer a few days a week at a cool little tap room. He explains that the owner is super open to his ideas, so Nick has been using what he knows in the cocktail world to make kegged cocktails, as well as teach some whiskey classes. He said he's not too busy these days, but he's okay with that. I know we all need to take a step back from time to time. Another very important form of self-care. When I asked if a mask mandate was ever reinstated in Chattanooga, he said while there hasn't been a mask mandate officially put in place, businesses have been enacting their own self-imposed mandates that are more of a strong suggestion. I can understand Nick's desire to take that step back and work in environments where he feels most comfortable. Thanks so much for listening, and enjoy the following episode, Eagerness to Learn with a Twist, with Nick Dietrich. My guest today is Nick, a bartender from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Also one of the youngest guests that I've had on my show to date. Thank you so much for joining me all the way from down in Tennessee today, Nick. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
I'm super pumped to have you here as well. We only just met a couple of weeks ago. I know the timing because we were out and about for my husband's birthday, and our friend Brandon from season 1 of Beyond the Venue podcast brings along this gentleman from Chattanooga, and it's like, oh yeah, this is Nick. He's just in Philly for the weekend. Like, we have a mutual friend. So what inspired you to kind of drop everything in Chattanooga for the weekend and come visit us in Philadelphia?
Well, I have a great college friend who moved up to Philly a couple of years ago. We'd been, back and forth about it. Said, come visit. And I needed something different. And I found $100 round trip, no check bag, just something I stuffed under the front seat at the plane there and headed up to Philly for the weekend.
That's awesome. I mean, it was great to meet you. You have, I don't know, just such a positive attitude and just such a wonderful spirit. And I just really enjoyed getting to know you. And I'm like, okay, I know this sounds crazy, but are you interested in being on my podcast? Because, hospitality and, we're really getting beyond the venue and leaving Philadelphia and bringing someone else into the fold. So I'm really excited we were able to make this happen. So how did you enjoy your weekend here in Philadelphia? Do you remember some of the spots that you visited?
Yeah, it was excellent. I got in late Thursday night. First thing I noticed, getting out of the airport, taking an Uber to my friend's house, just like all 3 of those sports stadiums are right there. It's like there wasn't many things I feel like I needed to know about Philly, but one was that you have to be a Philly sports fan to be in Philly.
I will ask too, did you also notice the intense smell as you were leaving the airport before you hit the bridge and hit the stadiums?
I don't think so.
That's always my like, hey girl, you're back at home in Philadelphia.
Yes,
it's
city
the
smell.
Refineries. It just it hits you like a ton of bricks before you cross over the bridge there. So we do love our sports here, and I think that was definitely one of the things that we talked about and trying to figure out where your sports loyalties lies, because in the South it's all about college football. Like, that's such a big deal, and I think we figured this all out. Where were your sports loyalties? Well,
we got the Tennessee Titans. I do love some NFL. The Nashville Predators for NHL as well is always fun to see, especially since they've been winning the last couple of years. Impossible to get tickets now, too expensive, but it's fun to watch them on TV. I like a little bit of soccer as well. There's a great little football club here in Chattanooga I like to go support as well. So yeah, I'm not the biggest sports fan, but I'm known to cheer for some teams. Yeah.
Double double. For me, it's all about the social aspect. That's what really gets me into sports in the beginning because I enjoyed playing them growing up. But when it comes to watching them, I feel like when you're just able to get together with friends and yell and scream and cry and
Exactly, all together at the same time in unison.
trash talking and I think Philadelphians, as well as like several other major cities around our area, are definitely known for not being the nicest of fans and definitely making some terrible errors in judgment about how they treat other folks who come to
Hmm.
Philadelphia. So I know we've definitely earned a reputation for not being the best, but we're not the worst. So how did you feel in the city of Philadelphia? Like, did you feel like welcomed? Did you?
Yeah, I was super excited. Riding off what you said just there, saying that maybe not a lot of Philadelphians is very nice. I've definitely found it the other way around, where everybody I met was incredibly hospitable and welcoming. I had a great time. Yeah, my friend, she lives in Queens Village, so that's a cute little area town, and it's just so different to me. Like cities down here are so sprawling. You have to get around by driving everywhere, 45 minutes across town, kind of thing. And it was so nice to be able to walk around a neighborhood, and there's neighborhood coffee shops and parks and record stores and everything in one little condensed area, which was really cool. Um, First place I went to the Thursday night, this place called Lucky's Last Chance.
Oh yeah, uh huh.
Yeah, yeah, just it felt good, like proper dive. I had a great hot dog. Yeah, it's fantastic. Exactly what I needed after getting the plan. It was like a shot, a beer, and a hot dog
And
right now.
What'd you do with yourself that Friday?
So my friend that I was visiting, she had to work um, earlier in that day, so I wandered around. I managed to get myself into like Little Saigon, that Vietnamese community there, and got like a badass $4 banh mi that was awesome. Walked around the open air markets over there. Found myself stumbling into this record shop. I don't remember the name of it, but it was very like niche. It was like heavy metal music, like 80s like house music soundtracks. That was like the only selections of albums they had. But then there was like a Dungeons and Dragons side too, so you could buy the figurines to paint for your campaign. Buy the die, everything like that. So it's just like two friends who clearly had some sort of passion and just decided to open up a collective space together. I thought that was very very odd, but I was here for it. It was cool.
Classic Philly. Like I love it. All these kind
Yeah.
of, eccentric little spots that, passion projects. I
Yeah, I
love it.
found like a Brian Eno album from the '70s, just some ambient number four kind of thing. It was cool. If I had the album, I would hold it up right here. But a great little find for sure.
And then Saturday, I know you definitely checked out Dirty Fanks and Bob and Barbara's, and it definitely doesn't get any more iconic than
Oh,
that.
excellent.
So, and I know you and Brandon, you guys went to dinner at one of the newer restaurants in Philly, I believe. Is it
Hmm.
Sally?
Sally, yeah, it was great. By that time, so Brandon and I had met up around like 1 p.m. at Blue Coat Gin Distilling.
Oh, Philadelphia Distilling.
Yeah, Philadelphia
Oh,
Distilling, who
our one
distills
of
Blue Coat Gin,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
one of our other guests for this season of Beyond the Venue podcast, Saul Thomas is he works there on
nice.
Sundays, and it's
Yeah,
we both agree that it's one of our favorite venues. It's absolutely
yeah,
beautiful.
beautiful. The drinks were excellent. I love some good gin. All the bartenders were really cool, and going somewhere like that in town with someone like Brandon, who seems to be well connected in the service
He knows a
industry.
couple people around
Yeah,
town.
yeah, a little bit of special treatment never hurt. Makes you feel a little more welcome. Kind of reminds me of Chattanooga a little bit in that way, because everybody kind of knows each other in the bar scene here, and you take care of each other. You go visit each other at the bars. Yeah, it was really cool to see that same kind of community in a city, 800 miles away from me.
And so tell me a little bit more about the spot that you work. Like I'd love to know how you ended up in bartending, as well as like a little bit more about where you're currently working.
Yeah, it's been a long road for sure. When I first moved to Chattanooga 8 years ago, to start college, I did that. My classic job at the time was I delivered pizzas, which was fine, but I found myself, I ended up being a barista at this little coffee shop, which was really cool. Um, And I started to care a lot about coffee, like not just, making cool looking drinks, but like the tastes and the styles, flavors. So I ended up getting a job at the roaster. I roasted coffee for about 2 years, and that was the first time I ever really sat down and thought about and talked about with someone else what I was tasting. Um, when you get a new bean, new like fresh coffee bean, there's no instruction on how to roast it. Maybe like some suggestions, but you do time trials, different temperatures and times. And you sit down and you do a cupping, and you sit there and you talk about the flavors. What you see in it, maybe what you could pull out of it if you do something different. So like that kind of mental exercise of vocalizing what you're tasting, I guess, opened up the idea to me of trying to work further into that side of things, into the
Because what you're
beverage.
describing
Yeah,
sounds completely identical to life in the beer world. Like that was
yeah,
very, very similar. Yeah.
yeah. So then I got my first serving job at this little pizza place in town. Pretty cool. Ended up being a bartender there. I got hired. I was like, I want to be a bartender. I want to do that. So I put myself behind the bar every day. If the bartenders needed something, I'd help them, like bust their glasses and clean.
Kind of
Like
an
show.
unofficial bar back. Like you're
Yeah, I was
technically
like,
a
I
server,
forced my
but
way
a
in there.
bar.
I was like, let me do this. So eventually, I got my first bar gig, which was really cool, and that's where I learned how to take care of customers, but also multitask, pour beer, do whatever. It was a pretty basic place, which is fun. It was a great place to learn. But I
You weren't
was
making $15 intricate cocktails at the time. It
exactly,
was
and
more of like a volume thing.
yeah,
And
totally. And there was like a Manhattan on the menu, and I knew how to make one, but I didn't know exactly what it was. I was like, I didn't know why these things were together, like what vermouth was or anything like that. And I started to ask questions, and they like to paint themselves as a local establishment. They have like probably 6 or 7 locations, so they're like very much kind of corporatizing themselves. So like,
like
nah,
a
shut
local
up.
chain.
Yeah, shut up. Don't ask questions. Make the drinks. I got to the point where I was like, I want to learn more, and there was nothing more for me to learn there. So I ended up going to this place called Whiskey Thief, top of the Edwin Hotel, like one of Chattanooga's, first cocktail bars that was on a rooftop, which is beautiful. And that's where met this great friend of mine, Matt Lawson, who also was an amazing mentor of mine. I basically interviewed him, was like, I don't know anything behind like this bar here. All those bottles, I have no idea what they are, but I want to know. So I think that kind of helped me get the job, showing, because I think there's a weird
Hire for
ego.
attitude, train
Yeah,
for success. I absolutely love
yeah,
that. And that's
totally.
how when I was your age, like that's
Yeah.
how I got I had never done fine dining
Hmm.
before. And so the year after college, moved home to Texas and just tried to find like a high-end restaurant where I could just make bank for a year.
Yeah,
And I only had casual experience in my portfolio. And
exactly.
just like you, I had that fantastic go get 'em
Yeah,
attitude.
absolutely.
And it's like, all right, show up tomorrow, like you're
Totally.
hired, we'll train you. And
Yeah. I mean, something someone amazing said to me a while back when I was starting my first serving job was, we can teach you how to be a good server. We can't teach you how to be a good person. And that's
yeah.
something that definitely resonates with me constantly, because that's when, if I'm looking to hire people, that's what I look for: the people who are interested, the people who are excited, not necessarily the people who have the most experience, which never hurts, but I want the good people that you have to work high stress situations with. You want people who can hold their own, people who can manage multiple things at once and always have a good attitude. And so fast forward, I'm kind of regaling on my past, but I was the bar manager of this place called Proof. Um, that started February of 2020. Our grand opening was going to be
No.
March of 2020.
Oh
Uh,
no.
we did a couple soft openings, with this like kind of looming COVID thing in the back. We're like, is this a real issue, or is this about to happen? And then the day of our grand opening was the day that the county mandated shelter in place. So
Oh,
COVID at Proof was all I knew, which has been, it was a lot of fun, very challenging, but we like quickly kind of shifted to become, I guess, like leaders in the industry, especially in Chattanooga area, on like how to handle it. So instead of just shutting down, we were like partnering with local distilleries to bottle hand sanitizer and
mm-hmm.
donate it. We were doing like these food boxes for out of work industry people that might be food insecure. Questions asked. We had like local restaurants donate extra produce. Sponsors who donated a 6-pack of beer, or like moon, like moon pies. You ever had a moon pie before?
I am familiar with a moon pie.
They're from Chattanooga, right? So like the moon
Oh,
pie,
I didn't realize
yeah, like
that.
moon
Okay.
pie donated a whole bunch of that kind of stuff, and we're giving those out. Little things to seriously boost some morale at that time because it was some dark days those first couple months. That was pretty scary. Um, yeah, so we were doing that. There was a big
Were you
tornado.
also, I guess, were you able to do any sort of to-go cocktails or to-go food, or were you just not set up to do
It
that just yet? Because I
Yeah,
guess
that
I never even thought
mhm,
about what everybody else was like. Because here in Philadelphia, and I guess the entire state of Pennsylvania, they signed off and were able to start doing to-go cocktails, but that
yeah.
took a while. I
Yeah, it
don't.
took a while for us too. There was some legislation that had to be passed, and there was a weird caveat. You had to sell food with it.
Yeah.
So we ended up kind of like cheesing it a little bit and like getting like little house bags of popcorn and like it
Hmm.
was like $1, but you could get $100 worth of booze with that if you want to
Right.
count it as food. Uh, yeah, so that was a total shift in what we were planning on doing, and that was the first couple months, and then late summer last year is when we started actually trying to do some dine in, like outside only
Yeah, I guess I would ask,
table
so is
service.
it is it food and cocktails? Like, it was it a full
Yeah,
service restaurant, not just, like a cocktail bar?
yeah, it was this really cool concept. It's an incubator space, so
Oh, okay.
the bar acted as an anchor, and we bring chefs in who have ideas of their own. Maybe they don't have the capital or the means to have their own space yet. We give them a chance to work it out. We'll help train their staff, get an idea. Maybe like my job also involved maybe get an idea of what their cocktail programs could look like, make menus that would reflect their cuisine as well, which was pretty cool. Um, since then, we've had this amazing guy in named Kenyatta Ashford. He actually just won Chopped pretty recently, so there's been a lot of buzz around there celebrating him, which is really cool. But yeah, it's been a total ride there. I actually left Proof at the end of June. I stepped away.
It's like, what month where are we now? Like,
Yeah, right. One,
okay, so
two, three.
about 2 months
Yeah,
ago. So, okay,
yeah,
about 2 months ago, you
yeah.
walked away from Proof. Was it
hmm
what was the impetus for that decision? Just kind of needed a change or needed a
Yeah,
vacation?
a little bit of both. And one thing I've kind of come to terms with that I think there was some serious trauma bonding with Proof involving COVID because that's really all I knew. That's all Proof ever was COVID. There was never a time. There was never a before time at Proof there. So, and there was a lot of stress. You'd think that people would be more empathetic, compassionate over the last year, but
You mean in terms of, consumers?
yes, our
It
guests,
is
yeah,
heartbreaking
it is. It
how
really is.
this last year has, honest to God, brought out the best and the worst in people, and I just, it sickens me how people are being so terrible to folks in the hospitality industry. Like, how I just I don't get it. Y'all have been through the absolute ringer. Like, everybody's been through it, but the work that, bar and restaurant folks have done to keep us, fed and drunk and happy and in whatever capacity you can, and for people to just turn around and be awful. And then now with the whole proof of vaccination and everything that's
hmm
coming out, without the internet trolls are just
They're
through the
feasting.
roof.
Yeah,
It's it's killing me.
it's
I
really
just,
disheartening. Yeah.
oh, so I guess as you were experiencing a lot of that, unfortunately, in Chattanooga.
Mhm. Yeah, and especially Chattanooga itself just elected a Democratic mayor, which is pretty exciting. But we are very much a red state, couple little blue dots. So we share a border with Georgia and pretty close to Alabama as well, and more rural towns. So
Would you
are the
compare Chattanooga a little bit more to something like an Austin or a Madison, Wisconsin, where you're like a liberal? Is it a liberal city in in a red state?
exactly? Yeah, it's a blue dot in a red state for sure.
Is it very much
Um,
like a college town feel, or
yeah, yeah, the college town, but it's also a great outdoor town. We got a lot of people coming here for rock climbing, and kayaking, biking, hiking,
because you're
camping.
close to the Smoky Mountains?
We're like in the foothills. Yeah,
Okay.
if you go a little further east, you'll hit the Smokies, but it's the geography around here is absolutely beautiful. That's actually why I came. I fell in love with rock climbing when I moved here, which has been awesome. I met so many amazing people through it. It's a great community. And some like we're for the layman who isn't quite aware of like how dense Chattanooga is with climbing. It's crazy. It's world class. every time I go to some of the more popular spots, I meet people from around the country, around the world, because it is high quality, high volume. It's awesome. There's a lot of cool people that come through this town for that kind of stuff as well.
Is it all outdoors? Like, so was it something you were able to safely do during the pandemic?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's funny. You couldn't buy a bike around here.
Oh, it
And
was all
nothing
sold
was,
out.
yeah, all
Everybody was
sold out. Everybody's hitting the trails pretty hard, and some of the more popular climbing areas did close down for a little while because there's just so much congestion. But yeah, it was cool to see people taking an alternative, getting outside. Um, yeah, and like I said, so many cool people, great community with that kind of stuff. So
That's awesome. And I
yeah,
guess is that kind of one of your self-care go-tos? Is that one of the way you mentioned that you were in this kind of like trauma bubble
yeah.
with being inside Proof. So what were some other ways that you were able to process or just kind of get through and keep that amazingly positive attitude of yours?
Uh, despite what you see, the attitude did dwindle a little bit at certain times, and during that
Oh,
year,
cheers to that.
yeah, definitely fell off the wagon a bit with trying to get outside and be active and healthy. It's easy to kind of spiral, especially in an industry where you work long, late hours, surrounded a lot by inhibitors like alcohol or other drugs. You stay up late, you get off work, 2, 3 a.m., and you're not ready to go to bed. You go out, maybe the only thing open is a bar that has shitty fried food, and you're hungry, and you have a couple beers, and then you sleep until 2 p.m. the next day and do it all again. So it definitely got sucked into um, kind of this like self-deprecating cycle. It was really disappointing for a while. So that was another reason I need to step away. I was like, I need to take time for myself. Need to enjoy my life, go see my friends and family more often. Be creative in the ways I like to be creative, like making music and just being sociable. I think it's helped me a lot.
So is music one of your outlets? I mean, you mentioned finding this, super cool record store. So, do you play? Do you sing?
I play mostly for myself. Definitely have some stage fright, but there's a great little bar I like going to here in Chat that does a like an open mic every Wednesday, and every Wednesday I go and they're like, "Are you playing this week?" Like, no, not yet.
So all
But
you need is a little pep talk.
exactly, yeah.
So listeners, when Nick gives you his information to follow him, make sure you send him some encouraging notes to
Would
get him
appreciate
up on
that.
stage
Yeah,
for get over that stage fright.
exactly.
So if you left Proof in June, what's I know there's so many folks that kind of just like what you're saying, we're ready to walk away from the industry. And so that's why, the last couple months, I know a lot of places have had a hard time staffing because people were just not willing to return to that lifestyle. So
Yeah,
folks are going back to school. They are, maybe going back to whatever their undergrad degree was in, or just doing something completely different. So
yeah.
what's next for you?
I've been doing a lot of private events, which has been pretty fun.
Oh,
Um,
tell me a little bit more about that.
yeah, I'm kind of working out the kinks, but a great friend of mine, Toby Darling, amazing guy, who actually put me in contact with a guy at Blue Coat Gin or Philadelphia Distilling as well. What was his name? Canyon.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I met
Yeah,
him. He also, I think when we were at the place that Saul works as well, R&D, that he was there, and he's like, you gotta come by. I was like, I
yeah,
know, I will. It's just, it's far, but it's not that far. It's Philly.
absolutely. Yeah. He put me in contact with him. Great guy. Amazing mentor as well. He worked with me at Proof. But he's done a lot of that kind of self grind kind of thing, where he does a lot of consultation, a lot of consulting for restaurants and bars, and he does a lot of private events. So he was giving me some ideas on maybe how to structure my own business model with that. And working in the same town for 8 years in the restaurants, I've started to meet a lot of people. So I don't quite have like a business name yet or like anything official like that, but I throw my name out there whenever something needs to be done and pick up what I can. And I've been doing some fun stuff because I don't do like anything like crazy. I always do like smaller events, private cocktails, specialty stuff, make them feel like this is their event, that kind of, and they love it. I love doing that. And you can set your own pace, and instead of like being a hire for like a catering company, this is my own thing. So I can set the precedent, I can, set the pace, set my price, which is cool. And, really like put on that professional attitude, and people buy it. I mean, because it's not like I'm like, it's a farce, but it's fun kind of saying like this, I know this is what we need to do. These are the cocktails I'm going to make you. This is how much I'm going to charge you. And people are down with that. And it's been a lot of fun for sure.
And what are the liquor laws like in Tennessee? Because, this is something that's come up a couple times with other bartenders on the show. Different cities and different states are set up so differently. So, for here in Pennsylvania, the wine and the liquor is sold through the state. Beer
That's
is sold
wild.
separately. And so what are things like in the state of Tennessee?
Um, like I said, there were some weird laws that be passed for the cocktail stuff. Um, we just recently started having distilleries actually produce stuff here. Up until like 2014, everything was sourced through MGP or an outside state producer of spirits. So as far as liquor license go, you have to be 18 to serve. You get your ABC card. It's like alcohol beverage C acronym. I don't know. Yeah, it's weird. There's like some laws about serving it, but
Do you
as
have
far
to
as like,
serve with food, or because you made a comment about having to sell to go cocktails with
yeah,
food? Is that a caveat that's generally in place of
yeah, that's so, and county to county is different too. Chattanooga here, you have to serve food at your establishment if you serve hard liquor, but beer is cool. You don't have to have food.
okay.
And so you either can sell food and it has to be like produced in house, or you can kind of bite it, and it's like a 4,000 annual payment you have to make. Which if you're like a high volume cocktail bar, you sell a lot of good stuff. The margins are good. I mean, 4,000 isn't too bad. So there's an interesting way around it. And a lot of these laws are, I mean, some are like pre-prohibition stuff, like as far as like distilling and producing in town. Some are interesting, like you're not allowed to drink at the place you work, even like
Oh,
even outside of like working hours.
oh, interesting.
Yeah, a couple years. It wasn't a couple years ago. It was before
Is
my
that
time
just a
here.
Chattanooga thing, or is that
Yeah, I think like 10, 12 years ago, someone had gotten excessively drunk at their establishment, was overserved, and they drove home and killed somebody. Um,
it's
so that
unfortunately how that
it
happens?
it is, and it is unfortunate, and but that's, you'd hope that it's more professional than that in most cases on both ends. I work here, maybe I shouldn't get toasted, or I'm the bartender and I know this guy. I know he's had too much to drink and he works here. Like there there's ways around it, and it's unfortunate because there's really cool places in town. Like Proof was awesome. Like the program was really cool. Everything was really well considered, pretty cheap. Used a lot of local ingredients, and I wanted to drink there. And coming on my off days, but had no desire to. If I honestly, it sounds kind of like alcohol dependent, but I want to come in and have a cocktail on my off days, like these ones I've worked so hard to create and kind of get out into the world. And yeah, there's some strange laws for sure, but as far as like private events go, it's pretty relaxed. It definitely, and we're like right on the border of another state, just like Philly is. But if you do private bartending down in Georgia, you have to have like different licenses and stuff. But
Oh, really?
yeah, like private events here, it's kind of whatever you want it to be. Yeah, kind of
And
cool.
when you purchase alcohol, are you able to get beer, wine, and spirits all in the same location, or and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
are you
and
able to
they're
buy stuff at the grocery store,
mhm.
or
Yeah. So Proof also acts as like a commissary kitchen. So we have, I say we, like I still work there, but um,
it's hard to
yeah,
it's going to take some time for sure.
yeah. So there's all these producers of like consumer goods that also work there. We have like a chick who does like CBD baked goods. We have this chick who's like a pastry chef, like patisserie kind of thing. We have a guy who does like meal prep stuff, and there's all this extra space. So I mean, I still have a good rapport with them. I'm a big fan of not burning bridges, so I can use their space. I'll like order produce through them as well, which is nice. It comes right to the door, like the bulk prices, which is really cool. And I use that space to prep, which works out really well. It's pretty cool. I'm in a lucky position. But as far as like booze goes, yeah, just it's all in one place, which is lovely and convenient. And they're not all called beer, wine, and spirits or whatever. The what's the name of the shop in Philly?
Wine and spirits.
Wine and spirits. And
Fine wine and good spirits. It's yeah, it was nice a couple years ago when they finally started to pass laws that supermarkets and bottle shops were able to start carrying wine. So we are pretty spoiled here with some, very, very talented curators of their wine selection.
Sure.
So that was one of the odd silver linings of the pandemic.
Right.
The spots that had to, one of our favorite spots, Fountain Porter, that is just such a small bar and had no outdoor seating space. They just transitioned into a natural wine shop because they already had, excellent wines by the glass. So that was probably one of the most exciting moments for me was when they reopened. So so I'm curious so right now it's about mid-August and we're going through every week something is changing now with the Delta variant. And so Philadelphia has finally announced like, okay, now we have a mask mandate. So businesses are either requiring proof of vaccination or you must wear a mask at all times while indoors. And I'm really hoping that this does slow things down and we're not looking at future restrictions. What do things look like in Chattanooga right now?
So there was a new mayor elected kind of throughout the COVID stretch. So he wasn't the one to enact the first mask mandate. So I'm sure he's getting all sorts of pressure from both sides, either to probably reinstate it or not. I think even just today, I've seen from a couple friends who work at different bars, they've started to wear masks again. I'm not sure if we'll ever see another mask mandate here, because I mean, geographically, the area of the United States I live in is less than keen on wearing masks and believing in them, getting vaccinations. And like I said, we're right on the border of a lot of states, and they'll come into Chattanooga from the sticks, I guess you could call it, and they're all used to their small town conservative ideas, and it really puts a damper on everybody's business here because, I mean, I wore a mask 8 hours a day for a year. I'll do it again, protect myself, protect my coworkers, protect my guests. But you just need support from everybody else with it. It's the people who say, really, I have to wear this mask between me getting up from my table and going to the bathroom. Like, yeah, it's 20 seconds. You got that. You're a big boy. You can do this. Yeah.
Baffling.
And whether
so I guess with that said, you do not think that spots in Chattanooga would require proof of vaccination at a bar or a restaurant?
They actually started to have already.
Oh, there are spots that are
it's like it's self-enacted. It's self-mandated.
Yeah, and it's same kind of technically here, but it's once they enacted the mask mandate, a bunch of places it's kind of like
totally
like dominoes. Like as soon as a couple places stuck their neck out and said we were going to do it prior to the mask mandate, and now it's pretty much every spot that I would visit.
Totally.
Is going proof of vax, and I'm here for that content.
I'm all for it.
If it forces more people to get vaccinated, that's
absolutely
the name of the game.
Because at this point, I mean, I don't want to catch the Delta variant, but I'd be okay. The fact is, like, I don't want to kill somebody who has refused to get the vaccine and kind of ruining all the fun for everybody else. Like, we're ready to be over this stuff. But I'm going to Bonnaroo music festival. If you have you
Okay.
heard of Bonnaroo before?
But yes, I
Yeah,
have.
yeah. Cool. I mean, it's an hour from here. It's super close.
Okay, okay.
I went like 5 years in a row after high school. It's a great place. Yeah, I bought the tickets back in April. But then
Oh, thinking
everybody's
everything's gonna be fine.
yeah,
Fully
everybody's
vaxxed,
optimistic. Oh
hot vax
yeah,
summer. Yeah.
vaccination's coming out. Let's get this. We're gonna go dancing this fall. That's the first weekend in September, and they just announced that they're gonna require either negative test or proof of vaccination, which I'm very excited about because
Yeah, that makes
I
you feel
was
a lot
ready to. I
safer for
didn't want to
sure.
go. I didn't want to go. Now I'm curious. It's a huge festival. Hundred
Mhm.
thousand people. I'm curious to see what the turnout will be this year because it's also not during the summer, which it normally is, and this extra layer on top of that. People maybe who don't have the vaccination or people who don't want to go because it's a pretty serious climate right now. So I'm curious, but I'm looking forward to it. I dancing is one of my favorite things to do. I don't do it well, but I do it with a lot of gusto. So
Are there, particular bands that you're super pumped to see, at Bonnaroo?
Tame Impala for sure. Love Tame Impala. That Australian psych rock is definitely my favorite. There's this hilarious. He's a comedian, but he's also like a musician. He's got it's like Weird Al, like Weird Al kind of thing, but way more 2021. He does like a lot of live streams. His name's Mark Rebier.
Okay.
He's hilarious, but he's also an excellent musician. So I'm looking forward to seeing him. He'll be playing as well. That'll be a cool show.
And
Yeah,
how many days, does Bonnaroo last?
it's Thursday through Sunday, so 4 days of dancing. Yeah.
I
So
guess that's gonna be over Liberty weekend?
yeah, that first weekend in September. Yeah, it'll be fun. Yeah, a little hesitant, but like I said, I mean, we're vaccinated, so hopefully it's okay. I'm taking a chance for sure, but
We're in the same boat as you. We're
yeah,
spending, Labor Day weekend in Santa Fe at the Zozobra Festival.
the
It
Zozobra
is,
Festival.
apparently it was the original Burning Man, but it's in its 97th year, and it's this
Wow.
giant animatronic monster that you are supposed to be able to put like everything that you just want to disappear and never think about again. So,
Sounds cathartic.
obviously
I love that.
everything
Yeah,
for the last year and a
totally.
half. Put
Absolutely.
it in the monster and they set the monster on
Mhm.
fire. And it's just this huge party. So it's 100% outdoors. And so because we've never been before, like we're not really sure how crowded it's going to be, but
Yeah,
feel relatively safe and relatively comfortable. Like obviously we'll still keep like masks on, on our wrists and wear
sure.
them whenever we're feeling uncomfortable. But
Yeah.
um we'll see. So it's outdoors. That's that's
Yeah.
just what I
Yeah,
keep
this
telling
is all a
myself. It's
camping festival
outdoors.
too, so I'll be outside, but I recall the years where I was packed into crowds like sardines, and I'll probably be avoiding the front of the crowds this year.
And then
Probably
it's a nice thing you
yeah,
can figure out like where you want to space yourself.
exactly.
And then with kind of the camping situation, are tents are they typically very close together? I went to the only music festival, like camping music festival I've ever been to, was back in 2007. I went to the Hurricane Music Festival in Germany, and it was one of the
Oh,
most
cool.
fun
That sounds
weekends of my
awesome.
entire life. It was amazing, but it was great because I went with friends who like knew what they were doing. So someone who doesn't camp or do any of that,
Yeah,
it's like I can
yeah.
pack accordingly. And I also taught all the Germans about peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
What? They don't know about
Um,
that over there?
they didn't know about that
Oh
over
my
there because
gosh.
peanut butter is super expensive over there because it's not very common and they have to
Huh.
import it. So um just to have people like set up camp for
Yeah.
you and then you show up, and it cracked me up too because I saw what 25, 30 bands in a weekend and was just constantly like seeing all these different shows
Mhm.
versus they pretty much just wanted to get drunk and see the headliners. And I'm like, y'all do you. I just was totally
Totally.
fine just going around checking out all these different bands by myself and
That's my favorite thing to do
um
too. Just
making
wandering
friends with
off.
strangers,
Yeah.
and
Especially
it
late night shows, you're not really sure where you're going, but they're like, what's that noise over there? That sounds like fun. Go wander over there and see what's up.
and the best was they kept trying to convince me to go to the Wacken Festival, which is the metal festival that takes place in Wacken,
Yeah.
Germany. And they're like, everybody's so nice. I don't doubt that for a second. I'm sure every single person there is so wonderful. Like I had brought up on another episode, the Maryland Death Fest, like the
Hmm.
metal festival that takes place in Baltimore. These metalheads are just the sweetest, most
Sure.
wonderful
Yeah.
people. I just don't like that kind of music, and so I'm
Totally
not a
fair.
fan of metal, and I don't want to spend X amount of dollars to have to listen to metal all weekend. Like, why don't we just party in Hamburg when y'all get back?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a fair compromise. So, I am pretty sure that's the last time I went camping. So with some of our mutual friends, so with Brandon and like his
Yeah.
friend Olivia, they are Appalachian Trail hikers. Olivia's currently doing it. Brandon completed it. Do you have any aspirations to do the Appalachian Trail yourself? Is that in your wheelhouse?
It seems like a lofty dream for me personally. I mean, I've had friends who have completed it slash are doing it right now, um and like regret like hearing their tales so cool. They come back with the trail nickname, talk about all the crazy people they met along the way. Sounds awesome. And I don't I could do it. I think I could, but also I think like a 6 month commitment to something is a lot. Kind of dropping everything and spending a lot of money for 6 months because I feel like that's something people don't realize it's so expensive. It's an expensive thing to do.
Because
So
you're also not, you're not getting an income, and
yeah,
so saving up
unless
to be able
like
to
selling
do it.
drugs or something on the trail, but which I'm sure is pretty
I'm sure
lucrative.
it's very lucrative. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I would love to do that for sure. I'm also not too familiar with like the Appalachian Trail once it goes kind of up towards y'all. I know like some of the stuff around here, and I've done some of the stuff around my part of the country, but yeah, from what I've seen, like like Mount Katahdin up there, like Mount Washington, are both just like beautiful and extreme and hazardous and dangerous, and it seems so cool that that's part of this long kind of winding trail is this like serious dangerous part up uh in like New Hampshire, and it sounds really cool. I would love
It
to do
still
something
blows,
like that.
yeah, it
Yeah.
blows my mind. We like during we're still ongoing with the pandemic, but last year my husband and I took advantage of nature vacations because we're just like you. We love exploring new cities, meeting new people, eating and drinking our way through, making
Right.
friends with the
Yeah.
bartender, getting suggestions from
Totally.
them. And we could not do that last year. So we rented a house for 2 weeks, I guess 2.5 weeks in upstate Maine. We were only about like 45 minutes from the Canadian border. And so we took a day trip to basically like see Katahdin. So we were like where we were driving to, you could just see the mountain in the distance.
Yeah.
And it blows my mind to think, that was a 10.5 hour drive from Philadelphia, and then beyond, just to be able to like see that mountain. And I
Yeah.
know people who are going to walk to there.
Yeah.
just I I
It's
can't. It's amazing that they're
it's like
doing
some of the
this.
most volatile weather I know in the country. It might be in the world. Like it could change like drop of a hat. You can yeah, you could die. You could be exposed in 20 minutes like to a blizzard that you didn't see coming kind of thing. Like crazy. It's very impressive. But
I'm glad this is not airing until they're done.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
can't
they're on the trail like, "Oh my
nobody's
god, I could
here.
die on this mountain?" Oh god. I'm not going to get that far then. Never mind. Um no, but one of my
Oh,
favorite things to do is winter sports like
oh, okay.
snowboarding. Snowboarding is my hands down like most fun I've ever had in my life. I drove out west this last winter. I had a friend who lives out in Colorado, and uh, just took 2 months off and was a snow bum, which was
That's
fantastic.
awesome.
Um, but that's another reason like Philadelphia is like so appealing to me. You got New Hampshire and like upstate New York and Vermont up there, which all have like very very solid East Coast skiing, which is pretty ideal. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I have not been since I was 18 years old. I growing up in Dallas, we would head to Colorado and New
yeah,
Mexico every year, and I've done both skiing and snowboarding. I am a terrible snowboarder to the point where I would like learn how to do it, but just would fall so much and slam down on the ground so
Oh yeah.
terribly that I would spend the next day in terrible pain, and
Mhm.
then figure out like day 3 could kind of finagle my way down the mountain a little bit. And it's like, why am I doing this to myself? So when I moved to Philly, um, at 18, and you got the freshman floor, everyone's trying to plan like a ski trip, a snowboarding
Sure.
trip, and I'm like, y'all have fun. I just don't see the point in getting clothes, renting equipment. Like, I'm just going to be terrible at it. And I think that, and so it's kind of like that's when I started to move away from it and to get to the point of, yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to go back to it. So even as, quote unquote adults renting houses in the Poconos where, a lot of our friends would go skiing and snowboarding, it's like, oh, I'm just going to stay at the house and help prep dinner and have
Totally
some
drink
Bloody
some hot
Marys.
chocolate. Yeah. Exactly.
Absolutely. So it works out nicely.
Absolutely. It's hard to get into, especially if you don't go very often. I've been lucky enough to go about once a year every year since I was maybe like 14, which has been really cool. And over the years, slowly accruing the gear as well, which makes it a lot easier, and I have to rent it every time. And so when I was able to go out for 2 months, like you said, by the time the third day, you finally figure it out. So being out there for multiple weeks, like, and the amount of improvement you see in just that time is like
Oh, I'm sure it's immense for
so
sure.
exciting, so satisfying. So it's this really very zen kind of flow state once you figure it out. It's just you and the snow, letting gravity take hold. It feels nice. I love it. I dream about it. It's definitely a long term goal of mine is to be somewhere where I can do that seasonally.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
speaking of when you moved to Philadelphia, see what I did there? Where we just love to have you. So that's actually how we met Brandon in the first place. Is Brandon was friends with our friends from Philly that had moved out to San Francisco, and so we've got friends here in Philadelphia that they own all their own snowboarding equipment and go often. So they always would do like somewhere out west, like somewhere in the Rockies, an annual snowboarding trip. And
Yeah.
so it was our friends Neil and Vicky that met Brandon on one of the trips, and then he
Oh,
ended up
really?
here for the weekend. Yeah,
Cool.
so I'm sure you can absolutely once all this is over and
Yeah.
behind us, and we haven't got a Lambda Omega
Yeah.
variant, who knows?
Jeez.
And they pick the trips up again. You should definitely join them,
Oh my gosh, I
regardless
would
of
love to.
your current city that you live in, even though it sounds like it's going to be Philadelphia. Um, well, so I would absolutely like you're a seasoned traveler and you've, checked out so many places. What, do you have a favorite venue out of all of these places you've been to, or maybe even like a favorite venue in Chattanooga?
Like venues in bar or concert hall, or like what do you think? What does the
All
venue
the
mean to you?
above. So, I mean, it is, what does it mean to you? So, I've had guests who have evoked a memory of a place that just really spoke to them, and they just have such amazing feelings anytime they think about this place. Or it could be like, I know when we're doing season 1, it's like, okay, as soon as I get vaccinated, this is the first place that I'm going
Sure.
to go to.
Yeah.
So, even something like where you were in Colorado
Right.
or Bonnaroo, or and I do allow for multiple answers because I know it is a very, very difficult question
It
to ask,
is definitely.
especially when
Yeah.
you have been to so many places.
Um. Well, there's this place called Bitter Alibi in Chattanooga that for the longest time, that's where I went after work when I was done serving at that first serving gig I had where I first learned how to bartend. And that's kind of where I really got an appreciation for kind of that bartender guest relationship, because I was on the guest side, but it was the same bartenders. I like going out to eat by myself, especially after work. I just want to sit down and decompress. And I met some amazing people there over the years. That was like, I feel like that really molded me into more of like a young adult. Like I was in college, but like sitting there interacting with people passing by, the bartenders, getting to know them, and becoming a regular holds a serious place, in my special place in my heart. And they've all since left that place, but a lot of them are still around town, and I still see them, and we're all friends. And uh, that was a pretty pivotal part of my like young adult life, which was really cool. I mean, And that's something I don't take lightly, you know, and that's why I enjoy bartending so much, because I love being on the bar side as well, and like really taking care of people. Um, that place is awesome. Um, I still go every once in a while, but new crew doesn't have the same kind of connection they used to, but it's fine, you know. Um, but Salida, Colorado is where my friend lives, and that's the place I've been going since I was 14. It's just a tiny little town, very cool. There's this place called Benson's that has this big old moose stuffed head on the wall. It's massive, and I was just always think of that place. You know, we'd have these awesome like trips with like my dad and my sister would go up, or like my friends and I would go some years, and we'd always go to Benson's. You know, after skiing all day or snowboarding all day and being tired, and it always just had this like this sense of comfort there, which was really cool. It's a, I love that town so much. I would move there, but it's too small for me. At least at this point in my life.
You're like, I'm at my limit for
Yeah,
smallness on the town.
exactly.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
feel ya.
I already know too much about everybody here in Chattanooga. I can't downgrade size. I need to be my own person. But yeah, I love that place. It's so near and dear to my heart. Um, and I would go back in a heartbeat if I could. I would,
They're still
yeah,
doing aces after everything we've been through the last year and a half.
yeah,
They're still
yeah.
kicking.
They're still kicking,
That's
which is
awesome.
great. Yeah, I mean, unless something changed since this winter, but I saw them back in like January, February, and they were hanging out. So
If they're hanging out January,
yeah,
February, I think they're gonna be just
yeah,
fine.
yeah. I mean, Colorado did I think a pretty decent job of like seriously uh, ensuring that there wasn't a spread in restaurants. You know, they were at 25% capacity for a while, pretty early shut down, that kind of stuff. So hopefully they made it out all right. Yeah, there's this really cool little bar here in Chat that didn't make it, which is a place called Coin Op. Little barcade, nothing too crazy. Just a guy with a passion project and a whole bunch of pinball machines, and you never had to pay for any of them. You know, like it wasn't one of those places like Dave and Buster's or something. It was all just these like classic like cabinet games or these awesome pinball machines. I love the Kiss pinball machine, was my favorite. But yeah, that place didn't make it, which hurt my heart for sure. I loved going there. Brian is an awesome guy. I don't know if you'd ever hear this, but Brian, keep it up, man. You do what you need to do, because it took a lot on him too. And I think COVID wasn't the only reason he closed, but it was the reason he needed to close, you know. And yeah, it's so weird seeing places come and go, and thinking about the times you spent there and the people you meet there, like your friends that go out, or the bartenders and the staff that you meet. Like I love that part of my job so much, and that's why I love traveling alone too. Like you said earlier, you'd go
Sit at the
out,
bar,
yeah, sit at the
chat
bar,
up the
get the bartender's
bartender.
idea. Yeah, that's the way to do it.
That's,
Um,
I mean, that's I both, whether alone with friends,
mhm.
with my husband, like I love sitting at the bar over a table any
You get the best
day.
perspective for sure, because you'd hope that in a bar it's decently designed so you can also see everything from the bar. So you see how the whole restaurant works. You see how the bartender interacts with everybody else. They'll give you a good idea of where to go next. You know what you've been doing, where to stay. A friend you should go see at the next bar and say, "Hey, tell him John sent you." And then yeah, it's this like beautiful domino effect of having a great experience because you said sit down at the bar and talk to the bartender.
Well, so Nick, will you please let our listeners know how they can follow you, and stay up to date with your comings and your goings?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. I like traveling and posting and drinking booze and making cocktails and stuff. So I plan on doing a lot more of that, especially if I try and continue to grow my like private cocktail stuff. So
And when you
yeah,
move to Philadelphia,
and when I move to
so
Philadelphia, which is inevitable, I've been already looking at Zillow and daydreaming online there. So
that's what happens when we go on vacation. I
yeah,
know pretty much all the cities that we've really enjoyed visiting. My husband will just wake up the next morning with Zillow postings.
exactly,
So we don't have to buy, we can just visit. So,
exactly.
well, I'm so glad that we met, and I'm
Yeah,
so glad that you were able to join me today. This was a really interesting conversation. And, I obviously just have a fondness for bartenders because I've had a lot of them on my show. So, listeners, thank you so much for joining us today. Check out Beyond the Venue podcast on Instagram and make sure you follow along for our podcast on all your favorite podcast streaming platforms. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.